YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with some more NFL draft position rankings. This video is for the wide receivers, and I think this wide receiver class is very, very strong. A lot of first-round talent, lots of guys, in the middle of the draft that would, in normal classes, probably would go much earlier. So we'll break down about 50 of these guys, some key ones I want to break down. So I would recommend listening when I break down each guy because I kind of explain why they're where they're at, basically. So we did quarterbacks and running backs. This is our third video for this. We're going to get through the rest of the position rankings, and we have a few more live streams and videos before the draft, and then during the draft, we have a live stream. Starts 30 minutes before the draft on April 25th, but we will be live during the draft as well right here on YouTube. We'll be talking about predictions while teams are on the clock, and then we'll have our reactions. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's my favorite day of the year. Hopefully you guys can join us for that. And our subscriber goal is at 20K, so if you can help us get to that, that'd be much appreciated. Click the like button, notification button, and then there's our Twitter in the bottom right at Goat House NFL. There's a link in the description. We have updates on there. We talk with you guys on there. We have polls as well. And then day 3 of the NFL draft, we'll be live on there talking with you guys. So let's get on to the receivers. Let's start with number 1. And I've kept my number 1 receiver all along. I'm sticking with it. It's N'Keal Harry from Arizona State. And there's my grade, obviously, first round. I have him the best receiver in the class. He's 6'2", 228. Why is he my number 1 receiver? Really because he does it all. And I just want to cut to this, that there's a bunch of people that don't really like him as much as other players because for some reason everyone's coming up with the separation thing. He can't get separation. I just think that's a load of BS. I think those people that say that are either put too much trust in another so-called draft expert, but I think those, experts, they must be watching like highlights only, because when you watch full games, you see him plenty of times get separation, and the times that he really doesn't, he still catches the ball when the guy's tight in coverage. There's a lot of almost one drop and then throw to him, so it's pretty impossible to get too much separation there. And then, of course, the highlight tape is going to show the best highlights, so the best catches are not going to be when he's wide open. And you watch him against all these different teams, plenty of times where he has great footwork, great separation, gets open. At times there was balls that were underthrown. So I can go all day on this. He gets separation. He can run routes. There's probably a better, guy in the draft with footwork within his routes. Maybe a guy that has a little better separation, but usually the speed guys for that. But I think N'Keal Harry is everything. That's what you look for in a receiver. The ones that end up being busts are lacking stuff here and there. N'Keal Harry is a complete receiver. He has the size, the strength, route running, separation. He can catch in traffic. He can go up and attack the ball at its high point. Not all the big receivers in the draft can do that. And the run after catch is ridiculous too. He literally has everything, and that's why he's my number 1. And I think he can fit. Also can play in the slot, play outside. Like, I can keep going with this. And I think he fits pretty much any team. And I think teams will have him as their number 1 wide receiver. So I think he will go first round, but my grade is first round. On to my number 2 receiver, and it's very tough. The next 3, I mean, they're all close with N'Keal Harry too. I just didn't really have to think about it too much in my opinion. Harry's my number 1. That's really the end of it. The next 3 are pretty darn close. My number 2, I went with DK Metcalf, Ole Miss. The reason, the argument for him not to be 2 would be because of the injury. Like, if he doesn't pan out being good, it's because he's hurt, which is a possibility. But he's a freak, obviously. 6'3", 228. Honestly, you would think he'd be a little taller by the way he plays. You wish he can attack the ball at its highest point a little more, but we didn't get enough to see that, Their quarterback either was on target or overthrew a lot, with the arm strength. So he was able to go out and get there. His extension on his arms and his hands to get the ball is ridiculous. He's got the speed, obviously, at 4.3s, which is insane. You wish we would have saw him more inside the numbers, but I think he's capable. You can see he has quickness. You wish there was more quickness, obviously. Everyone bashed him for the 3-cone drill, but it's just a freakish receiver like this. I'm willing to put at 2. I'm willing to take the risk on him. I don't think there is as much risk as everyone thinks, too. It's really just the injury, but yeah, you see some comparisons. He's not quite Julio Jones, but there's some comparisons because Julio can, he runs inside the numbers a lot, and but in similar size, body build, and speed. is what I see Julio Jones. I do like the Josh Gordon comparisons as well, but he's his own guy. I'm not a huge fan of comparisons. You just see glimpses here and there. He's his own guy, freakish guy. It's going to be hard for the corners today to guard him too, because the corners that were succeeding last year against these new offenses, these new quick offenses, are the quick and speedy corners, I should say. So a guy like this towering over somebody is going to be really hard for those types of corners. You're going to need a physical corner to match up on this guy, which we're lacking some of those guys, mainly because they don't have the speed, and they're going to get called for PI. So I see mismatches is where I'm getting to. Number 3, I went with A.J. Brown. And I think actually the best receiver in this class after the catch. I talk about N'Keal Harry being real good. A.J. Brown is ridiculous after the catch. With his cutting, his movement, his vision throughout the whole field. He knows what's going to happen before it happens, really, and that's where he thrives. 6 foot, 226. He's very good at playing the slot, playing outside. He's got the speed. He's got the craft. The footwork's real good. It just sounds like I'm explaining, I'm breaking down a number 1 receiver. In pretty much every class, he would be a number 1 receiver, but he's at 3, and I still have a first-round grade on him, and I actually have him in my top 15. I'm very high on the receivers this year. But the reason I put him at 3, the reason, I kind of to split hairs and separate from the other guys is we don't really know how he's going to be against press. He played in the slot a lot, not too much press action going on there. Can he handle the stronger NFL corners? And then can he run with the speedsters? I think he can, but it's a little bit of a question mark. Again, I kind of just got to find weaknesses that really aren't huge weaknesses. You got to do that with a lot of these guys here that are really tight. And also, he was kind of going against the nickel corners a lot, the box guys, or if he was outside, he was going against the second best corner. For whatever reason, when DK Metcalf got hurt, they were still lining up the team's better guys on DeMarcus Lodge, which was odd, but it's because Brown's in the slot a lot. So for those reasons, I guess that's what separates Harry and Metcalf from Brown, but I do like Brown a lot. To number 4 is Marquise Brown from Oklahoma, and it's not a long. If you said he was receiver 1, I'm not really gonna argue with you much. I'm gonna give you my points on why I have my receiver 1 there, but it's realistic that Brown is a receiver 1 in this draft. The reason that I had to put him at 4 and decide to have the other guys, a couple reasons actually. Well, 5'9", 166. Is a little concerning. I'm not going to – there's some people that make a big deal about size. I mean, if you can play, you can play. That's how I always viewed things. But then the injury, apparently he's checking out recently. He's good to go, but it's a little scary. But can it keep happening because of his size? It could. And then that last game against Alabama, people use the excuse that he was hurt. I mean, sure, but there was a lot of balls like screen passes, just little passes that are just routine. That he should have caught. The injury's not an excuse to me. So once he went against Alabama, not the Big 12 defenses, he struggled big time. And it was only 1 game, so I'm not going to really penalize him for that. But obviously, I still have a first-round grade on him. But again, I got to split hairs. I got to find who has the weaknesses that stand out a little more when splitting up my clear top 4 receivers. So I got Brown at number 4. Number 5, and I do think there's a little gap, even though, and I'm borderline here. Is he a first-round talent? Is he a second-round talent? I went with the late first here for Hakeem Butler, 6'5", 227. And the reason is I'm taking a chance on him in the late first round if I need a receiver like this, because you don't see a receiver. You don't see a receiver like a lot of these guys, but you do not see a receiver like this. When's the next time we're going to see a guy like this? We're going to see some big ones coming up. Colin Johnson's the one that stands out. Texas, he's a big, tall receiver. But when are we going to see a guy like Hakeem Butler, 6'5", 227? He ran a 4.48. He's got quickness. He can run routes. We've seen him line up in the slot. When you see a receiver like that line up in the slot. So he really can do a lot. We've seen spectacular catches. We've seen him run after the catch when you see a towering receiver make people miss and break tackles after the catch. But why is he number 5? He did have some drops. He'll have some easy ones that he'll just drop, but then he'll make some ridiculous catches. So he can win you the game with the ridiculous catch, but the drops concern me a little bit, and that's why he's borderline, but the risk is worth it, even though it's a first rounder. It is a pretty big risk if you take him in the first round. I honestly think he ends up going second round, but in terms of my grades, that's my grade. But yeah, the drops scare me a little bit, but it's just the receiver you don't see every day. Now we're going to go through 5 at a time. Number 6, I got Deebo Samuel from South Carolina. Pretty similar to A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown's got a little more quickness and speed, just a little bit more. Deebo Samuel's built more like a running back. A.J. Brown is a similar situation too. And then Deebo Samuel's very good after the catch. He can break tackles. It's just he can go first round too, but I say early second. But yeah, he's at 6. And number 7's Paris Campbell. And Paris Campbell really doesn't have a big route tree. He ran about 3 routes all year, it feels like. But he's super speedy. He's dangerous. He can slip tackles. He's got vision downfield. And you're just looking at today's NFL. If this was like 5 years ago, a couple of these guys behind him might be ahead of him. But you can use him in multiple different ways. And I'm kind of taking the risk here. I'm banking on that he can run those other routes. You know, he's not going to have crazy good footwork, but he has the quickness and speed to get open where he pretty much can run any route. You know, that's a risk I'm taking by saying that, but I think he can do it. He will work in multiple new offenses today's NFL, and he will succeed. Like that's for sure. They're going to find a way to use him. You know, somewhat similar to Cordero Patterson, who couldn't really figure out the routes and reading defenses. You know, he could be similar on the routes, but reading defenses, it looks like Paris Campbell can figure that one out. Number 8, I got Kelvin Harmon. Harmon's a tough one because he probably has, it's a battle, but I would say he has the best hands and body control in the draft. I'll definitely say body control up in the air when he's going to attack the ball. I think he has the best in the class. So why is he not higher than 8? He pretty much, you know, there's some reasons that the same reasons that people bash DK Metcalf is he's pretty much only on the sideline. Same thing. Kelvin Harmon is really only on the sideline. He'll actually go up and get the ball a little better than DK Metcalf. And his body control is unreal. He has contested catches. You just rarely see him run inside. I think he can do it at the next level. It's a little bit of risk. So basically, people are probably asking, well, you're comparing him to DK Metcalf. I wouldn't really say they're the same like built or anything, obviously, but the only reason I'm comparing them is they stay on the sideline. But why is DK Metcalf so much higher than Kelvin Harmon? Well, the freakish athleticism is a big difference here. And Harmon, poor testing, you know, it's not the thing that matters the most in the combine testing and all that, but usually the guys that convert into more than just sideline receivers do have a lot more athleticism, and that makes it easier for them. Not saying Harmon can't do it. I already said this is a very stacked receiver class, and I have him at 8 in that very stacked receiver class, so I'm a believer in him. Number 9 is one of my recent big risers, is Stanley Morgan Jr. from Nebraska, a do-it-all guy. I would compare him to Michael Thomas, actually, from the Saints. Yeah, he can do it all. He's not going to, you know, he can catch on the sideline. He can catch inside. He can catch deep, a lot of deep balls, a lot of posts. That's very impressive. He can block too, but he's not going to go attack the ball at its highest point all the time. Maybe not as good as some of these other guys. He's not the greatest after the catch, but he can slip a tackle and run. It's just not super flashy, but he can run all the routes. He can get open, and I think it's a safe receiver to take, and that's why I got him at 9. So I believe I'm a little higher on him than most people. I like Stanley Morgan a lot. I think he's going to have a heck of a career. Number 10 is Mecole Hardman from Georgia. Not a lot of production, but Georgia just didn't use him as much as they should. You know, they had quite a few receivers they can throw between, so I guess that could be it. But he is fast. He looks so fast on tape. Looks like he's running 4.2. So, and you can use him in multiple different ways. He knows how to sneak out and get open deep, and he definitely can burn the DBs. You know, even the speedy DBs that are used today in the NFL, he can burn them. So, and he has a little under 6 foot guy. He has a good extension and good reach on the ball and can grab it. So I do like Hardman. I think he'll have a much better NFL career than he did in college in terms of production. So speedy guys at 10 there. We're going to go next 5. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is number 11 from Stanford. Impressive pro day recently. Ran the 4.4, what was it, 9.4 in the 4.4s there, which is impressive. I expected 4.5s, which would still be fine. Very good contested catcher. And, you know, maybe some people are a little higher on him than I am, but I just think it's a really good class, and there's a couple guys that have a similar play style that I think can just do more and are better. Whiteside, if I had to point out weaknesses, which he's a very good receiver, sometimes he stutter steps a little bit too much at the line. I think he just focuses on that too much, which that could be fixed. But you know, I don't know if he has as much separation as the other guys too, but he can get separation. He has solid footwork at times. Great contested catcher. You know, we've seen him go against the better competition. You know, a little less production there, but a very good receiver class. He's a very good receiver. I think he can go round 2, round 3 at the latest. And then number 12 is Riley Ridley. which not a lot of production out of him. He does have a pretty good jump ball catchability, mainly towards the sideline. Solid route runner. I think there's people that say he's a great route runner. I think that's a little overhyped. He's definitely a good route runner. Much better than some of these guys even on here, maybe even ahead of him. But I think that's overhyped a little bit. What stands out to me about him is him going against press coverage, especially against like the top corners in this class too, or the top corners in college football. He went against them. They really couldn't press him. So that's what stood out to me. He's at 12. 13 is Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin's fast. He knows how to get open. He's constantly open. He's a body catcher, though. I've noticed that a lot. He catches with his chest, and he'll still make the catch here. But it's just, if splitting hairs here, if I had to point out some stuff, that would be it. He's not going to be a great jump ball catcher or anything. So some of these other guys just have more traits to him, but I do like Terry McLaurin, another guy that can sneak in the second round. Myles Boykin's been a big riser in this process. He's number 14. He's from Notre Dame. Ended up running a 4.42 at the combine, which that didn't show on tape, but he also looked like he was more in shape at the combine, so I think he's already showing improvement. Probably the best hands in the class, right there with Calvin Harmon, I would say. I would actually probably give it to Boykin. Calvin Harmon, I would go with best body control for sure in the class, but Myles Boykin, probably the best hands. Doesn't really drop the ball, strong grip on the ball. Seen him make one-handed grabs too, and he's smart too. He can run routes, not the quickest. He's more fast and quick. Not the quickest routes, but he can run routes. He can read defenses. He knows how to get open. So he's been very impressive in this process. Andy Isabella's 15. He knows how to get open. I think people talk about his routes. His routes are good. I think there's just better route runners. He just knows how to get open. He knows how to read defenses. He'll catch with his, I don't know, it's not really his body, but it's almost, you see him catch the ball with his forearms almost a lot. They'll kind of bounce off his forearms and he'll catch it. So you wish he would use his hands a little more, but maybe that has something to do with him being short. But he gets the job done. Had a big game against Georgia, just found holes in their defense. So Andy Isabella, a little risky because he's undersized, but knows how to get open. And then here's the rest of my rankings, which I'll go over a few of these guys that I want to go over, and then I'll give you guys a link. It's in the description. So for every video we do of the position rankings, the link for that position group will be in the description. Some of these could change, but we're getting close to the draft, or most likely will not. So we left off with Andy Isabella. I got DeMarcus Lodge from Ole Miss. Another guy that'll make a spectacular catch, but then will have some concentrated drops there, here and there. Not a whole bunch of action because he was the third receiver, but then DK Metcalf got hurt. He can read defenses, though, so he's impressive. Antoine Wesley's at 17. People worry about his strength, maybe too thin of a frame, but he can catch. He can read defenses as well. He's pretty smart. You kind of would like him to be, a little more speedy, I guess. He didn't run the 40 at the combine. We see why. Emmanuel Hall's 18. I like his speed. I like his athleticism. Had some drops, and he hasn't played in every single game of his season yet for Missouri. So he's coming out of games. He's actually there's some worry about him being hurt, but apparently he's good to go. So he has a ton of upside, but the drops and the injury drops him down a little bit. I did have him higher at one point, but that a little bit concerning. Deontay Johnson's number 19 from Toledo. Excellent route runner. Reminds me of a poor man Stephon Diggs a little bit. We seen him tear up Miami, and Miami had the statistically the best secondary. They were the best against the pass in college football. So that is very impressive from Deontay Johnson. So he's definitely a sleeper. Greg Dortch's a sleeper. I believe I'm higher on him than pretty much everyone else. I think similar to Andy Isabella. I honestly think Dortch can be better than Isabella. Why is Isabella higher? Well, Dortch has the injury, is also listed at 5'7". So he did miss some games the last couple of years, and was currently hurt during this process, so he couldn't do the combine. So I guess he takes a hit from that, but I like his tape. He can return on top of everything, but he's very quick, very fast, can run routes. He can track the ball. A lot of one-handed catches too, so great hands there. 21's Jalen Hurd, a guy that I want to put higher because the limited action we've seen at him at receiver looked very good. Not a big route tree at Baylor. They don't really. It's kind of just go out and run. But his footwork looked pretty good, and the routes looked good in the ones he ran. With more time, he could be a damn good receiver. Did sit out at combine, didn't do much drills at the pro day because of the injury too, so that's a little concerning, but a lot of upside there. Gary Jennings at 22. I think Gary Jennings would just be a solid receiver. He doesn't have a lot of wow, not really a lot of upside. Routes aren't great. He just knows how to get open, big games against teams that were really just confused on the defensive side, Big 12 defenses, but he can catch the ball. He's very good on the sideline. Preston Williams, 23, who probably would be much better, but off the field issues drops him down a little bit. Former Tennessee transfer. I think he could have potentially been a second rounder, but wasn't invited to the combine due to off the field issues. He can catch, he can run. Jazz Ferguson, 24, bigger receiver, great hands downfield. Pretty good jump ball guy as well. So he's at 24. And then some of the other guys, and let's see any of them I want to go over. Keyshawn Johnson's moved up my board a little bit. Solid route runner. Worry about him against press. Dylan Mitchell I like. He's a good deep ball guy. Very good at tracking the ball down the sideline. And he's got speed and he's shifty as well, so you can potentially do more with him. But apparently not the greatest work ethic is from what I heard. So he's at 26, but some upside. Keelan Doss is a small school sleeper. Darius Slayton, people are starting to get higher on Darius Slayton. He's very fast, has some drops though, so it does have the upside. You would like to see more routes too. I think Penny Hart's underrated. Very good footwork, fast, good route runner, so he has some upside. Anybody else I want to go over? So here's my full list. You guys can click the link and come check it out. Not high on David Sills. I think people are much higher than me on him. I just don't know if he's an NFL guy. If he is used, he'll just be thrown in there in red zone plays, and that's pretty much it there for him, I think. That's going to do it for the receiver rankings. Again, check out that link in the description. You can see the full rankings. Some things will change. I know I appreciate the Draft Network for their very cool website, but they don't have all the guys I wanted to rank in here. There's a few missing, actually, so we're kind of waiting on those guys. But I do have a spreadsheet that'll come out that I typed out right before the draft. So, a lot more to get to before the draft, and again, we will be live during the draft as well, so hopefully you can join us. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.